Hi, everybody. I see we're coming in. I see Caroline. Hi, Caroline. I see Reed. And Reed, who's in the window there?
That's Peter.
Peter.
Yeah.
Peter who?
Peter Schorsch.
Hi.
He's
I
the goat.
don't know who Peter Schorsch is.
Should I get the vibe going?
Yeah, well, we're getting started. That'd be great. Hi, Grace. Got our...
Get inside. Got a West Seat, baby, you ride.
Yourself.
That new Uzi.
I can count that shit with no eye. You kill my partner, we ride. Little nigga, we ain't like
This isn't the vibes I'm looking for.
Ooh, different song. Bad word.
Get a nigga bitch outside. Then I put up.
Watch this short
Bro!
30 minutes of uninterrupted.
When you have ads on your Spotify.
Hello, Jack.
Here's some vibes.
Okay. Just for the vibe. All right, I'm going to admit more people. Hi, everybody. Riley, I see you. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Lauren. That's a cool wall behind you. Hello, Autumn. Hi, Caroline. Gabby, I can barely see you. It's such a beautiful day behind you. Hey, Tori. Allie, good for you outside. Hey, Frank. All right, and that's everybody's faces that I have so far. The rest are loading. Oh, I see Ashley. Hey, Ashley. And is that Ben? Is that Ben Martin? It has to be because there's a Scottish flag behind him, I think. Hi, Ben. Oh, and Connor, your image is a tree. It's a cool tree. Admitting more people. We'll get started in just a minute, folks. I have extensive notes. I'm ready. All right, let's see who else I can see. I guess they're all still loading. Chris Coleman, that's an interesting picture of President Obama. Kylie, what a lovely picture of you, my dear. Uh-oh, and now I don't see any.
Is it good?
Okay, can you guys hear me? I'd ask you to say yes because all of your pictures are now gone. So it's like we're back to YouTube Live. I tell you what, if you can hear me, because I can't see any of you right now, will you just type in the group?
Oh, no, I can't hear you.
She left.
Yeah. Oh, no. She's just talking, but we can't hear her.
Beside her.
How
Hey,
about?
bud.
Where is she at?
I'm here. I'm not mute.
Oh, there she is.
Okay. And
I just
Autumn can hear me.
pasted
That's
it.
great. I have to let people in from this stupid waiting room. I'm not doing this again. Okay. Elaine, you told me I'm muted. Can you hear me now? Shake heads or this way. Yes? Okay, everybody. I thought we would mute all of us this time. It got a little out of control last time. And also I want to ensure that we're able to all participate if we want to talk. So you do actually have an opportunity to raise your hand. So if you want, you can legit like raise your hand up like Elaine just did. Very good. If you would like to, and that way I can call on you. But also put it in the comments because there's enough of you here right now that I'm going to have to be going back and forth from screen 1 and screen 2. And that makes me sad. So do just comment in the comments. Hi, Allie. If you want to talk, okay? Sound good? Heads? Yeah? Okay, great. So listen, before we get started, I'll make a note to say this again at the end. Give us an update on grades. Okay, next week. They said they might allow for some flexible grading. Who knows what that means? I don't even know if they know what
Does
that
it mean all A's?
Reed, you know what, honey? I don't think so, but I can tell you this. If you guys are doing the assignments that I'm giving you and you're putting like a little bit of work into it, academic assessment for that is going to be just fine. Like, okay. Alrighty. Oh, you just broke your webcam. I'm sorry, Renato. That's so sad. And Ethan D, I guess L was short for LOL, perhaps? Okay, so from what I wrote down, let's see. Can you guys see that I'm sharing my screen with you? Did that work? Okay. This is what I'm attempting to show you. And it's not working. Great. Can you guys see a list of names? Yes? So from what I can tell, Paul, June, Kate, Hannah, Kellen, Abby, Frank, Caroline H, Rosa, Allison, Sarah H, Zach, Natalia, and Sasha, you are the ones who all commented. What is going on? I want to go back to stop share. Stop share. I'm sorry. Stop share. You're the ones who commented on Article 1, Paul Lights, a government ill executed. And I was hoping I was going to be able to use document share to pull this up, but it's kind of being a butt. So maybe we will, maybe we won't. Let's try one more time. Paul Light. Oh, son of a biscuit. Disco biscuit. Did I just lose you guys? Somebody unmute yourself. What do you see? Do you see anything?
I see your face.
Yeah, I just see
My
you.
face, that's horrifying. Okay. Probably a little bit too close. Well, I don't see my face. Oh my gosh, just let me go back. No. 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 Cancel. Cancel. Can you still see me?
We still see you.
Right, well, I don't know where you are. I can't see you at all. So that's fantastic.
Looks like he's in the woods somewhere
Okay.
at night.
It is like I'm in the woods. This is ridiculous. All right, well, let's talk about Paul Lights from a government ill executed. So listen, if you would like to talk, do me a favor and just type in the comments to raise your hand and I will unmute you. That way you can talk, okay? So in the very opening of this one, it talks about how Light is concerned about the fact that the bureaucracy is doing two things simultaneously. Can anybody out there raise their hand and tell me what it is who read this one? And don't forget, you can do this too. I can go back and forth between the two screens, but that's only if I can see you. So I can try to pull it up and share the screen with the document. Okay. Nope. All right, can you see Paul Light's article or do you just see me? Can
We
we
see your File Explorer.
Oh, you just see Internet Explorer?
No, your File Explorer.
My File Explorer,
the
that's
folder.
good. That's good. Okay, so I think we're just gonna stop that.
We see P light.
Oh, you did? Crap.
I mean, we saw we didn't see the PDF. We just saw the file.
Okay. How about now? Do you see the file?
Yeah. No, we see
Yes?
the actual document.
With the document, yeah.
Amazing. That's what I was hoping for. All right, so everybody, and you know what? I'm not going to be able to do all three things at once, so just go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to talk. Sound like a plan? All right, Emily, come in. Okay. So unmute yourself if you want to talk. Right here, Light gives us his major concern, okay? And his major concern is, that we have a simultaneous growth in the bureaucracy's responsibilities and the decline in the commitment of those who work in the federal service. Why is that a problem? Somebody unmute yourself and tell me why, who read this article. Uh-oh.
Well, if the bureaucracy keeps getting more and more responsibility, and then less people who actually want to work for it, that means less people have to have more responsibility. And I mean, they do a pretty good job now, but I feel like if they gave them more responsibility with less people working it wouldn't be very good.
Yeah, that's going to be a real problem, Reed. Thank you. Folks, what did Light seem to suggest is the way to fix this? What's the way to fix this? Who do you want to interest? I'll give you a hint. My screen is full of them.
Young people.
That's right, Reed. And yes, Allison, interest new young workers. Very good. So that's his goal, is in an attempt to deal with the fact that the bureaucracy is getting so large, and the fact that people who are in the federal service are no longer as committed, no longer as jazzed as they once were to serve, then we need to interest young people. We need to make sure that the folks who are coming in want to actually do the work. What did Paul Light refer to the massive workforce that's doing the job of the bureaucracy? Do you guys recall what he called those that were hiring in the private sector to do the job? He did talk about baby boomers, Allison. That's not what I'm looking for, but you're right. I'll give you a hint. We're here. The hidden workforce, does that ring a bell now? Maybe, if you read this one, yes. Reese, be careful while you're driving, Reese Lynn. That's absolutely what he's talking about, is so much of the stuff that the federal government is doing through the bureaucracy is being farmed out to these people. Something else that I thought was kind of cool from Paul Light's article is he brought up what required document, everybody, quite a bit. You can unmute yourself and tell me, or you can just type it in the comments. Federalist 70, that's right, Allison. He brought it up a fair amount, didn't he? In the very beginning, he used a quote that says that a feeble execution is but another phrase for a bad execution. And a government ill executed, whatever it may be in theory, must be in practice a bad government. Do you guys recall what were ways that Hamilton told us we could continue to have a good, solid, energetic government? You can unmute yourself or you can type it in the comments. What did Hamilton suggest was the best way to have an executive branch that worked well? Amanda, single executive power, very good. Grace, samesies. Hannah, unity in the executive, very good. Zara, one executive. And Sophie, unity. Elaine, united single power, very good. So you guys are getting the idea down for sure. Hamilton is the one who fought for the energetic executive, and perhaps we could extend that to going beyond just the executive, but also the executive branch, right? The bureaucracy doing so much of that stuff, really expanding the federal agenda, okay? And now that we've expanded the federal agenda, the problem, according to Light, is okay, it was an energetic executive, but now there's too much crap. They're doing too much. And since they're doing too much, it's not happening as well as it could have been. So they took Hamilton's view to heart. But here's a quote I want us to look at. So it's on page 256, if you want to turn to that in your reading. And the quote is that Hamilton's energetic federal service eventually became the victim of his own vision. Hamilton's energetic federal service eventually became the victim of his own vision. What does that mean? Any ideas? You know, you have to talk, guys. He became a victim. How so, Seisha? Hamilton's energetic federal service eventually became the victim of his own vision. Yeah, ha. Frank says bureaucracy doesn't have the capacity to do everything at once. Very good, Frank. And that also plays into the fact that the bureaucracy now is hiring those outside of, you know, what the government can do. We're hiding this hidden workforce, and they're doing all of the work themselves. What's the problem with this hidden workforce, guys? What's an issue? Stephen, since you've got your head in the world, surely you could answer this one.
I didn't read this one.
Ah, okay, Pumpkin, that's fair. Waiting on you guys. That's right, Augustine. They're going unnoticed. You don't know who the hidden workforce are, hence the word hidden. Also, they're not accountable to voters. Neither are people in the bureaucracy. So that's kind of a double whammy for both of them. Okay. So then as light is getting more into this document, and it's anything but light, and this hidden workforce that can't be held accountable for results, he's saying that the bureaucracy is getting more lethargic. In fact, the quote that he uses, if you look at the top of page 257, is the question is about whether the federal government can rise to the task ahead. Okay, it has never had a greater need for agility, but has never seemed so thick with bureaucracy. What do you think that could mean, thick with bureaucracy? And you can unmute or you can type it in the comments, whatever you prefer. What could that mean? Thick with bureaucracy. I'm thick with carrot cake right now. What does that mean?
Full of it.
I'm full of it. Yeah, so the government is full of bureaucracy. It's so big. It is so dang big that you just can't do anything. A piece of carrot cake that I wanted to eat was so mammoth, it would have tied me down. I would have been unable to be agile, which is what Paul Light is calling for, right? That's what he wants to see. Okay, and he does say that we have the opportunity to really make some changes now, because what large group of people is getting ready to participate in a mass exodus out of their positions? That's right, Grace, the baby boomers. They're getting ready to go bye, right? Bye boomer. And so we do have an opportunity for change here, right? We totally do. Okay. And a government well executed, according to Light, would allow for more flexible careers, eliminating unnecessary layers of management, abandoning senseless missions, all of that sort of thing. Okay, so now is the time for a big booming change. Now, if you would please well, actually look at the bottom of page 257, and it goes into it again at the top of page 258. And here's where Paul Light really highlights a lot of tensions with what Americans want, but what they're unhappy with. So why don't you guys give me a few examples of that? What Americans want, and then what's the issue with that thing that they want? I can give you an example if you would like. The book says that Americans want the government in great endeavors, right? Like voting reform. But they feel as though when the government spends money, they're wasting money. So that's a constant tension. What are some other constant tensions that Light identifies? Yes, Aisha, so protecting voting rights and reducing disease, we absolutely want them to do those things, right? How timely for the second one. But yet we feel as though they waste money when they're doing these things. Providing health care for low income, Allison, sure, lots of people want that, not necessarily all. But yet again, we feel as though they waste money when they're doing this. This kind of reminds me of another conflict in political culture. Can any of you guys think of any of those two things that would often conflict with each other? You can write it in the comments or you can say it out loud. I'll give you a hint. Individualism is one of them. Individualism is constantly at conflict with what? Do you recall? It involves the word equality. That's right. Say it, Shia.
Quality of opportunity.
Yay, you and Caroline are right. We want to provide these services for people, but yet at the same time, our government values individualism, but we also value equality of opportunity. So that's where we get into a lot of the tension in things like universal health care as well as welfare. Some other things that Light identifies as tensions is that government has the right priorities, like some of the things you guys mentioned, if you believe in that politically. But a lot of Americans feel as though the bureaucrats are not necessarily in it to make a difference. In fact, what did Light say is good about a government job? Do you guys recall? What are some of the things that are competitive factors that government jobs have going for them, for folks who are looking for work? Do you know what I have going for me? If Dr. Ritchie doesn't like me, he can't just fire me. Do you know what I have?
Tenure.
What did you say, Reed?
Tenure, isn't that it?
Tenure. Very good. Yeah, I have tenure. So yeah, Tori, the pay can be good. So that is an adequate provision for support. You're absolutely right. Not necessarily unions, Connor, but yes, Frank, pensions for sure. And their job, so it's secure and it's decent pay. If you read the third article, you might disagree with the decent pay part. But we also want them to maintain these programs to deal with the problems that we see, yet they get so much criticism. Alrighty, let's look at the problems that Light identifies, starting on page 258 towards the bottom. He says that we have an ever-expanding mission. And one of the things, did anybody else highlight this part of the ever-expanding mission? It's very timely. Anybody who read this part, did you highlight the fact that not only are we trying to protect voting rights through decent technology and aggressive enforcement, we're also trying to reduce disease through continued research in modern laboratories. Did anybody read that and go, okay? Yeah, Shai did, me too. Another problem he identifies is that the government is still thickening. I'm at the bottom of page 258 now. And don't forget, what's something that Light said and something that I told you guys about. What's a solid thing that almost every single politician promises to do with the bureaucracy? What do they say they want to do?
Get rid of it.
That's right. Either get rid of it, Stephen, or reduce it significantly, but yet it's still thickening. So that's a problem. He actually gave us an example that when George W. Bush came to office, when Clinton was president, there were 2,400 title holders, and following George W. Bush, there were 2,600 title holders. So, I mean, would you call that a growing bureaucracy? 200 jobs? I mean, yeah, it's getting bigger. And then he talked about the nomination process to get on the Supreme Court, or really to occupy any job in the federal government. What were some of the things that Paul Light said in regards to the nomination process? Did he speak of it highly? Yeah, it's real slow, Tori, you're right. No, Connor, he did not speak of it highly, you're right. Do you guys remember the nomination of Justice Kavanaugh? Do you remember everything that was involved with that? What would be a word that you might use to describe it?
Interesting.
Interesting, Reed, that's my go-to. What else would you use to describe it, folks? Invasive, good, Tori. What did Barnum and Bailey used to have? Corrupt, Reed, highly publicized. Yes, Autumn Circus. That's right. And he says that the public has the expectations of this now for people to really look into these folks. And now we've got this dwindling pool of potential nominees because of things that you mentioned. It is invasive. They don't necessarily want to subject themselves to the terrible process the entire time. Maybe it's too much risk for reward. They just don't want to put themselves out there. Getting towards the end, he also brings up how much easy things are to do with the private sector. And I'll wait until we discuss the Wilson article for you guys to weigh in on that. But he even mentioned how people within the bureaucracy don't think that they're doing that great of a job. He said that folks in the bureaucracy were often dissatisfied with access to tools. They felt like their peers were not competent. That's helpful. Have you guys ever felt like your peers weren't competent before? No, everybody's great. And interestingly enough, he identifies the Department of Defense as the one that feels as though they're not doing a good job and that they're doing a bad job. That's not good. So he really calls on us to reform it. He says at the very end, I'd like to talk about this quote and then we'll leave this article. Big problems demand big answers, which is why tinkering will no longer suffice. Tinkering, what a great word. What does that mean? Big problems demand big answers, which is why tinkering will no longer suffice. What does that mean?
I guess tinkering means making a small change to hopefully fix the big problem.
That's right. You're right, Reed, and Grace is right there with you. It is a small change in an attempt to fix a big problem. So to wrap up Paul Light's ideas, what is the big problem or problems? You guys tell me. Rosa says we need to fix the issues and stop playing around. That's a good way to word it. The small change is not working anymore, yeah. So according to Paul Light, what are the big problems with the bureaucracy? Let's revisit this article one last time. then we'll spend some time with James Wilson and Trump before he was president. Too big and not efficient. That's right, Frank. It's thick in terms of size, in terms of lack of agility. They're unable to get the job done. They're having to hire a hidden workforce, and we cannot hold those folks accountable. Steven, that's freaking me out, man. Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. All right, so listen. Out of all of you, I think the fewest people read that article. So I expect much more conversation, love ya, out of the rest of you for the Wilson article. All right, so raise your hand if you read James Q. Wilson's Bureaucracy. Keep your hand up. All right, there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I don't have pictures on Caroline or Hannah or Zara or Nicole or Sophie or Rosa. I don't have pictures on the rest of everybody. Okay, so you guys are all telling me though. Let's see who read this one. Ashley did, Sophie did, Gabby did, Anna, Kylie, Lindsay, Autumn, Sydney, Zara, Connor. Okay, great.
It was the shortest.
Yeah, this one was this was a popular one, wasn't it? And apparently I messed you guys up. Did I post this one as the first article on your choices? And then it would be the second article we talked about? I'm sorry. It makes sense up here. It does. Up, Jack Persons is waiting to come in. Come in, Jack. Okay, 5 new messages went. Okay, great. Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Did not choose this one back based on the fact that it was shortest, Autumn. Of course not. Why would you? I know you guys obviously didn't choose it because it was the funniest, because that is not true. And I know if you read the third one, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I want to hear from somebody. Somebody unmute and tell me, what's the point of this article? What's James Q. Wilson talking about? And a lot of you can weigh in. Who wants to unmute?
Kind of like the different like problems faced by both the public and private sectors, like how they kind of like comparing and contrasting them.
Yeah, Autumn, you're right. So comparing the problems that both potentially the private sector and the public sector could experience, sure. That's what
he's talking about how, like, if the private sector can take care of a public sector problem, like what will happen and how those crossing overs work and like what everyone does.
That's right, Riley. Absolutely. Looking at the roles that each plays when the government hires a small company or a large company, usually, to get the job done. Zara says that he talked about how the bureaucracy looks better when they use the public sector, but oftentimes the private sector is more efficient and cheaper. Was that the case here? Was the private section or sector cheaper and more efficient?
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely, yes. Stephen, do you, and look at everybody saying yes, yes, yes. I can't keep track of you. There's so many. Kylie, Sydney, Anna, Lindsay. Good. Okay. Do you guys happen to recall numbers? I think that might be interesting for us to look at, just how much the city of New York had.
I think it was 3 months before schedule.
Yeah.
750,000 under the maximum budget.
Mm.
Yeah.
And a month ahead of schedule or something like that.
Great job, guys. Okay, so Trump, when he took this job on, it cost him less money. Do you guys happen to recall how much New York had spent up until this point?
3 million.
Yeah, the state took 13 million.
13
Casey,
million?
Ansley.
Yeah.
Good job, Sophie, Gabby, Ashley, Riley. Great. $13 million and 6 years. But President Trump did it for less than 3 million in less than 6 months, which is what he said he was going to do. Yes, Amanda, he saved $750,000 under budget. That's huge. That's huge. Something interesting that Wilson pointed out is, would you guys be mad if the government took 6 years to do something, spent $13 million, and it didn't get done? Lauren says yes. Nina says yes. Bye to he, Amanda. Andrew, you're saying no. You're much more forgiving, Andrew, than the regular person. Reed, what do you think? Your class.
I think it depends on what it was, but if it didn't get anything done, I think it'd be a pretty big waste of time and money.
That's true. And he actually cautions us about being too simplistic with our definition of what is efficient, doesn't he? He says what's efficient cannot be boiled down to pure and simple if it costs the lowest amount of money and took the least amount of time and you have a satisfied customer. That's not necessarily the most efficient. At times, the most efficient requires people to really slow down and give some serious thinking to what they're doing, right? I mean, I would be happy, I'd be comfortable with the CDC taking their time on a vaccination if when they think they have it, then they test it and they realize they don't have it. And so they didn't give it to me. I'm okay with that. Anybody else okay with that? I'm okay with that. You know, I don't want a I Am Legend type situation to happen here, you know? I may not be Will Smith. I mean, I'm not Will Smith. I don't know if any of you STEM people are Will Smith, but I'm not. Okay, so way to go, Trump, in this significant accomplishment. So look at page 273. Wilson gives us some straightforward bureaucratic problems. So Light identified being too thick and not agile and not having the confidence of your workers as problems in the bureaucracy. Wilson gives us, I think, 5 problems. Oh, and Ben, you are Will Smith? Good. I'm so glad we have one. What are these problems that James Wilson gives us regarding the bureaucracy? Tell me, please. I'm dying to know. All right, so lack of efficiency, says Amanda. Absolutely, that's one. Absolutely. Responsiveness, Lindsay, very good. Riley, accountability, very good. So we've got accountability, responsiveness, efficiency. There's 2 more. Nina, are you raising your hand?
Is it because more people have to agree to it?
Ooh, we'll talk about that. That's good. Remember that. We'll talk about that later. That's a big problem he identifies. Yes. Okay. Gabby, you're correct. Fiscal integrity is another one. And the other one is equity. Equity.
Yeah, that's the header.
Darling. What?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
That's like the header.
Oh, okay. So when I was interviewed at the age of 22 by the principal at Kell High School, the interview went real well. I felt good about getting the job, but then he brought me in after I'd been talking to the department chair and said, if I told you that I could treat everybody fairly but not equally, what would that mean to you? I tried to answer the question. And when I was done with my attempt of answering the question, he said, well, I'm not going to make you do that anymore because you're flopping like a fish out of water. And I thought, okay, so much for this job. Thankfully, they gave me another shot. But equity is going to cause a big problem here. Does equity mean equality? Yeah, Riley says no. Casey says no. Vitahe says no. You're all saying no. Great. Even the ones I can't see. It doesn't. It doesn't. So let's visit that in just a little bit. So accountability, I think, is easy, right? What does it mean to be accountable if you're in the bureaucracy?
All right, Stacia, I think she doesn't want to be disturbed.
Yeah, all right.
Sorry, Stacia. What does that mean, accountability? How are you accountable as a student right now? Do you guys not know? Being here, that's right. Yeah, Riley, it's a little fuzzy. I'm with you. But yes, connecting to the Zoom, being here. You're absolutely right, Ashley and Amanda. So you've got to be accountable. And if you are not in a position to be elected, then being accountable in the bureaucracy means that you've got to do a decent job, right? And if you're not getting the job done, you've got to figure out how to get the job done. Okay, so equity. Equity. In terms of the bureaucracy, equity is the biggest headache ever. Autumn, you said that it's giving everyone the resources they need to achieve the same success. Oh, I see we did a little look up here. Good job, honey. Whereas equality is giving everyone the same resources despite one person possibly needing more resources. Yeah, that's pretty dang on point. So how did James Wilson suggest that the bureaucracy tried to achieve equity, or tries to achieve equity? How do they do that?
Well, half the thing was like blotted out with some watermark that says scan with cam scanner. But I think it's saying that it gave each of the contractors an equal opportunity to bid on doing the job.
Yeah.
So that they could do it.
Yeah. Do any of you guys have family members, or you know of people who will bid on government jobs? No. Yes, Riley, you do? Okay. It's a process, like a process. Do you guys recall from our discussion on Wednesday what a lot of people refer to the bureaucratic processes as, like all the paperwork and stuff? Yeah, Riley, red tape. And it's tough to get through. There's a lot of it. And that's an example that he's talking about here. So good job explaining that one, Reed. Fiscal integrity. This is suggesting that if there's a change in the initial contract, they've got to make a whole new contract and they've got to wait. What's the advantage of being a private contractor in that case then? If Trump ran into an issue, what did he do when he took over the ice skating rink?
He just kind of fixed it. He didn't have to wait for like 13 different people to approve it on different levels.
Correct. And Nina, that's what you mentioned earlier, right? Okay, so Reed, you're absolutely right. Nina, would you expand on that for me, please?
I mean, if you have the money to do what you want, I mean, whoever has the money, and especially with like building like these projects like the ice skating rink, you're the one in charge because you're paying for it. So if you want to go with a certain construction company, then you can. If they're faster, more efficient, I guess. And it just all depends on if you have the money or not. And he has the money, so he could do it.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to start calling on some people here who I haven't heard from a lot yet. Warning. So what happened if Trump did not get the job done when he said he was going to have the job done, Lauren, or Casey, or Shia, or Vitahe? What would have happened? Oh, look at that. Ashley and Lauren and Sydney are answering the questions there. You don't have to wait. You fix it yourself, or you pay out of pocket. That's right. And again, guys, if you are hired to get the job done and you don't get the job done, forgive me for this, you're fired. Right? You're fired as a private sector employee. And in the public sector, they just don't have that. People were mad about the fact that the rink has not been finished, but yet people stayed in their positions in government, didn't they? All righty, so to pick up with where we are, let's look at page 275, shall we? I want to ask you what the meaning of this quote is. It's at the very bottom of 275, the second to last paragraph, last sentence. But we cannot always measure these things, you know, what makes something efficient or not, nor do we agree about their relative importance. And so government always will appear to be inefficient compared to organizations that have fewer goals. Can somebody expand on that for me, please? Government will always appear to be inefficient compared to organizations that have fewer goals.
I think it's just talking about like because the government's responsible for so much, they can't get it done as fast as if they were only to have like 2 or 3 things to worry about, like a lot of private sector companies do.
Excellent. And Casey
Also, I was gonna say
wants
like
to talk. Okay, Gabby, what were you saying?
I was gonna say also when there's a smaller group of people, then you can like have more compromise because there's
That's
not
true.
that many opinions and differences of opinions.
That's true. That's a great point. The
It's
government.
like
Yes, Amanda.
it's like gonna take longer for Congress to like compromise everything like normally it does, like with bills and laws.
That's right. And yet, who can issue an executive order like this?
Trump.
The president.
The president can. Trump can. So you guys are all correct. That definitely plays into this for sure. Okay. And I really like some of these examples that Wilson gave us at the bottom of page 275. He said one way to determine whether an agency is really inefficient is to determine which of the constraints affecting its action ought to be ignored or discounted. Listen to these examples he gave us. In fighting crime, are police handcuffed? Are there things the police cannot do when they're fighting crime because of rules and regulations? Yeah.
They probably can't shoot immediately.
Exactly. And they really want to try and avoid using deadly force if at all possible. When we're educating children, are we tied down by rules? You think teachers are tied down in a sense to things that they have to do, things that they have to cover, things that they have to teach, assignments they have to give, platforms they must utilize? I realize I'm asking a rhetorical question now. I'm sorry. Getting a little too mad there. So Wilson says that people spend a lot of time complaining about the bureaucracy because it's unfair and it's unreasonable, but then also because it's slow or cumbersome. So let's look at page 276 at the middle there. I really like this example because he's looking at what justice means. And somebody brought that up earlier. Who doesn't like Zoom? Me? I don't like Zoom. Okay. So it says here, arbitrary rule refers to officials acting without legal authority or with that authority in a way that offends our sense of justice. It means we require our governments to treat people equally on the basis of clear rules known in advance. This is the speeding example. Do you guys remember the speeding example from this article? Nice picture, Ben. You do? Okay. So Becky and Bob are driving 30 miles over the speed limit and they both get a ticket. What did Wilson bring up that we should maybe question about that? Nina?
Whether like the example he used was if like a woman's in labor and she like needs to get to the hospital immediately, whether the other guy was speeding for fun.
Excellent. Nina, you're absolutely right. And Sydney agrees with you. Yeah, it's the reason for the speeding. It's the circumstances. Obviously, two problems that he identified earlier, fairness and responsiveness can often be in conflict too. But then I want to ask if you agree with this statement that he made. Inefficiency is a small price to pay for freedom and responsiveness. What do you guys think about that? Inefficiency is a small price to pay for freedom and responsiveness.
I think that's a bit counterintuitive. You know, he's contradicting himself because responsiveness, I feel, is efficiency, and they don't really respond very quickly either because they have to go through so many checks and balances.
Okay. That's true. Yeah, a lot of inner checks and balances, Reed. You're absolutely right. Anybody else want to speak to that one? Sophie said that it shows how, whoopsie daisy. It shows how we find it more fair to give the speeding ticket to the guy. Yeah, going back to our earlier example, you're right. And Lauren said, I don't think the American people truly understand what lengths the government is going to get stuff done. I concur, honey. I don't think they do by any means. Okay. Last but not least, oh, and how he defends this is he says that it's compassion that spawns red tape, like trying to do the right thing. All right, so let's wrap up Wilson's ideas in a nutshell, just like we did for Paul Light. What do you guys think? What's Wilson's main idea about the bureaucracy?
Basically that it's held back because it has so many more objectives it has to complete.
Yeah, you're right, Stephen. They're not able to get the job done as quickly as they would like because there is so much bureaucratic red tape, in part because they're trying to treat people a little bit more equally and fairly. Sophie says our government works the way it does for certain reasons. You're absolutely right, it does. And I think that Wilson says that those reasons are not necessarily bad. Inefficiency, we can't simply measure something being efficient by how quickly it happens and by how cheap it is. That they are limited from many sides, you're right, and that's probably purposeful and okay, Vaidehi. Anna says it's slow and held back, but only because of the public view and things that it needs to go through. Yeah, I mean, we're holding them accountable, you're right. Zara says not all parts are going to be able to line up because of the restrictions that can occur trying to treat sectors equally, just get things done quickly. Yes, absolutely. And yes, the bureaucracy is trying. It is. It is. So why don't we all say some swear words and look at our last article, shall we? Yeah, it's not always, it might always be seen as inefficient. You're right, Amanda. And there's a lot of things that they have to accomplish, so it does slow them down. Oh, look, you guys are already practicing. All right, well, you're being a little bit more censored than Robert is being. Okay, so where are my people who read Locked in the Cabinet? Let me see your hands. Marissa, Caroline, Shia, Tori, you would like this. You should read it. Stephanie, and I know there's more of you. That was the best article. Oh, okay, you read all of them, of course, of course. And Val read it too. Great. Oh, Val, I'm so glad you read, or you made it here, sweetie. And Luke did too. Okay. So, Robert, say his last name. How do you say it?
Reich.
I thought so. I just, tread lightly.
Yeah, it's Reich.
Yeah, that's how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's R-E-I, right?
Yes.
Yeah, R-E-I.
Yeah, so yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and I think Marissa agrees with you. So you all three agree with each other? Thanks, guys. I'll pronounce it.
I'm in German, so I got it.
I know. We'll have to tell Miss Lodi. Okay. Robert Reich. Let me let in Emily and Lindsay. Robert Reich, what position did he have? Somebody raise your hand, and then unmute yourself. All right, Marissa, what position did he have, sweetie?
He was the Secretary of Labor under President Clinton.
Yes. And do you think that he felt super duper qualified for the job and that he knew what he was doing?
No.
Yeah, I agree, Shia. You're also shaking your head. I mean, he used the phrase, I'm flying blind. Somebody raise your hand and tell me what that means. I'm flying blind. Or just unmute yourself and tell me what it means.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, Seisha. So the pilot, can't see where they're going, but they're still flying the plane. That's horrifying. But okay, so that's scary for an airline pilot. Is that scary for the secretary of a cabinet department? Yes! That's frightening. They should know what they're doing. But he uses a great defense mechanism of humor, and that helped it. Yes, Nicole, Secretary of Labor, Reed, he didn't know what he was doing. That's right. It's just an extra challenge, says Tori. Okay, so you know what? I had never looked up the mission statement of any cabinet department. Do you guys remember reading the mission statement of the Department of Labor? Yeah? Here's what it says. Foster, promote, and develop the welfare of the wage earners of the United States, improve their working conditions, and advance their opportunities for profitable employment. That about sums it up. Do you guys recall when this department was created? Did you happen to see that in the reading? Or just give me a general era? Yes, Nicole, 1913, that's right. So that's the progressive era, right? Don't we call Wilson a progressive president? Wilson was president at the time that this was enacted. He took over following Taft, who followed Roosevelt. This was the election that Wilson won because the Democratic Party split itself, which is not something that the Democrats are going to do with this election. By the way, remind me to bring that up when we're done with this article. He says that the Labor Department is in charge of thousands of regulations. Raise your hand if you have a job. Let me see. Got a job out there? Tori's got a job. Lauren's got a job. Stephen kind of has a job. Gabby, Marissa, Stephanie, Riley, Seisha, Caroline. Awesome. You all have jobs. Reed has a job. I know Walmart. Don't worry, I remember. And the rest of you don't have pictures. I can't see you. But your employers have to follow a lot of regulations from the Department of Labor. Do any of you guys happen to know any of them? Long live Smoothie King, Lauren. Do you know any of the regulations your workplace has to follow?
All I know is that they don't.
Well, don't worry, Reed. The Department of Labor can sue them. And they do.
Epic.
Pretty often. Minimum wage. Good job, Steph. Yes. They've got to respect minimum wage. Yes, Caroline, workplace hours. That's right. And if you're working for a certain length of shift, you have to get a break. Child labor laws, Nicole, absolutely. Health codes. Yes, Casey.
Does OSHA go under this?
Probably. They're probably a part of it, I would imagine. Cleaning regulations, absolutely. Remember I told you the restaurant I worked at shut down because of health inspection. Yikes.
Go ramen.
It's good. Remind me, Val, to bring that up. I want to talk about the stimulus package and things that were passed. Oh, has the House voted yet? I don't know. I've been making a carrot cake all day. Tori's going to look it up.
Passed today.
It did pass
I think
today,
they
Amanda?
did.
Shine says yes.
The stimulus did.
Yeah. Was it unanimous?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. Emily, come in. Okay. Alrighty, so
What did they vote on?
What, Pumpkin?
What did they vote on?
The stimulus package, which really should be called the relief package for the coronavirus. We'll talk about it in just a minute.
Oh, didn't someone vote no on that? And then they got like coronavirus a week later?
Rand Paul was against something, and yes, Senator Paul had positive. Sorry. Workers' comp, that's a good one too, Zara. Absolutely. Anybody have Miss Rowan for a teacher? Yeah, she hurt herself at work, so she's, taking advantage of workers' comp too. So that's things that the Department of Labor is in charge of, right? All of those regulations that you just mentioned, vast amounts of money to states and cities, in part because of Val, unemployment insurance. And then Reed, if they're doing a crap job, they can sue you. And if the Department of Labor is suing somebody, that's an example of bureaucratic adjudication, okay? That's just one example. Alrighty, where do I want to pick up? Did you guys happen to see on average how long the bureaucrats are in office for, according to Reich? Might surprise you. Yes, very good, Stephanie and Nicole, 2 years. And Reich said that if he really got the ball rolling and got everybody's job filled within 4 months, that would have been super duper quick. So I thought that was really interesting. He said that most of the workers have barely had enough time to find the nearest bathroom by the time they're on their way out. So that's just one example. Okay. He says when he's hiring for a position, he looks for 3 things. What are the 3 things he looks for? I'm on 279, if that's helpful.
One was that they should share the president-elect's values.
Excellent, Marissa. You're right. How about another one?
They have to be good managers.
All right, so Marissa and Caroline are right. Share the president's values. Stephen and Stephanie are correct. Yes, they must be good managers, and they should be competent and knowledgeable for the policies that they're going to administer. But here's just one example of why I love Reich. So yes, Nicole, you're right too. He says, sounds logical, but here again, how can I tell? He said that somebody could give him some, fabulous answer. And his wording was, uttered with enough conviction, bullshit like this could sweep me off my feet. So that's a problem if you don't know what you're looking for. You might find somebody who's just a real good actor. It's okay, Reed. It'll be fine. Let's move on. All righty. Let's see here. And then do you guys remember looking at his schedule? That was intense, right? That was super intense. 6:45 a.m. to 9 p.m. Are any of you guys keeping hours anywhere close to that these days? No. What time did you guys wake up? I'm just curious.
12:30.
10.
10? You're kidding. 8:31? Casey, stop it. Are you serious? Oh my God. 10:30, 9:30? Okay. 8. Oh, Caroline, you're winning. Up, 7:45. 5 a.m. gang, Ethan. I used to be in the 5 a.m. gang. I pulled my back carrying Wyatt. Oh my God. Can't do anything for a couple days. I'm gonna go crazy. Alrighty. Now I thought this was kind of interesting. He discusses how his chief of staff and deputy secretary, Ben, you still haven't woken up. Kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Screen phone calls for him. And he said that he didn't really like that. He said they did it because they figured what he should expect, what someone like him ought to have in their agenda. But why didn't he like that? Why did he want to do his own thing?
His point was just like nobody can really know what he wants. Like he doesn't even know purely what he wants, so he doesn't want someone else making those decisions for him.
That's right. You're right, Shia. And Nicole and Stephanie agree with you guys, as does Caroline. He's not going to see everything from all sides, right? He's not going to have any original or out of the ordinary thought or opinion or views that would, in his words, permeate the bubble. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And he drops the F word. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that. Okay, and then he gets lost in the Department of Labor, which just made me giggle so much. And so then they conduct a town meeting to specifically go after, no, Ben, not Federalist. Okay, thanks, Amanda. I appreciate the no judgment. And then he decides to actually conduct a town center type thing. Why is that not necessarily the best idea according to his employees? Why are they like, don't do that? Yeah, Nicole, lots of people in one place. In fact, they broke a rule, didn't they? One of their own that they're supposed to enforce. The Occupational Safety and Health Act. There's too many people, fire code. Let's see here. Shia, people get real mad. Because the employees might just yell at him. They could be against their own rules, which is what they were, very good. But yet in this meeting, he got a good idea, didn't he? Let's talk about the idea that he got. And this is so timely. Contacted the Labor Department and demanded that unemployment benefits be extended beyond their normal 6 months. So the Department of Labor has to come up with millions of dollars. Billions of dollars. And keep in mind the budget has already been approved. And Val, what you said, you're right too, sweetie. How do they get around that? What did they do? Do you guys recall? They got an idea from one of those guys at Town Hall. And keep in mind that those guys that I just mentioned at Town Hall, those are called career employees. Why might career employees not like all these political appointees?
They usually don't listen to them or really like take their opinions into account.
You're right. Yeah, usually they don't feel as though they're listened to. Their opinions don't matter, even though they're the ones who are probably going to be there for the duration because they passed a civil service exam. And they feel like the political appointees are only concerned about the immediate future. All right, so Caroline and Val are correct, as is Stephanie. These career politicians that are doing the work but not getting the credit, they're unhappy with their position, but yet they do come up with good ideas, like the man who came up with the idea to separate who is applying for unemployment insurance. Are they going to go back to it, or are they going to go back to their job quickly, or do they think they'll be unemployed for a little while? Okay, and what happened at the end of this article? What was the big thing? It became a law. You're right, Stephanie. So we got to kind of hear about that. Yes, Nicole, the ideas were put into a law. So that's just another example of the bureaucracy influencing the legislative branch and vice versa. Okay. All right, so that's that. Miss Etter, there was some drama in the House with the stimulus vote. I don't think it, but it passed, but not unanimously. Oh no. Okay, I'll have to look up what that was. All righty, everybody, it's now time to talk about today. So if you are today, that's right, Reed, today. If you tuned me out for the last 1 hour, tune back in, okay? Tune back in, please. Why don't I see pictures for all these people? Did you just turn off your videos? That makes me sad. I can't see you. Turn them back on. That's the whole point of Zoom, people. So we can check in. I miss your faces. Oh, your camera won't work. You're a mess. I'm a mess. All right. The stimulus package. Please let me caution you from calling it a stimulus package. It's relief. Okay? It's relief. It's like FDR and the New Deal, because this stuff is supposed to happen immediately. Does anybody know how quickly Americans, adult Americans, by the way, this is based on last year's tax returns. Do you know how quickly adult Americans are supposed to get their relief checks? 3 weeks. That's when they're supposed to start coming in. You're right, Allison. 3 weeks. So Augustine, it's going to be a little sooner than that, buddy. So that's good. Do you guys know how much? Let's say that my husband and I make under $150,000 a year combined. Do you know how much we'll get? Okay, so I'll get $1,200 and Sean will get $1,200. Augustine, you're right. So that's $2,400. But then we get more. Do you know why?
Children.
Does he have a baby?
Yes, Wyatt and Willow are each going to bring us. You're right, Caroline and Augustine and Tori and whoever else is saying that. Grace, yes, dependents. Yeah, so each kid brings us $500. So we will now get $3,400. You do know that we have to pay taxes on that next year, right? You know that, right? Yeah. It's income. So yes. Okay, good. You're right. Was there anything in the stimulus package? Have you guys read it? Have you read what Congress passed? If not, you really should. It's fascinating. So it passed 96-0 in the Senate, which meant that Republicans got stuff they liked and Democrats got stuff they liked. One of the things that was included is unemployment. Does anybody know what they've done with unemployment? So on average, unemployment is an average of $340 a week for Americans, $340 a week. Okay. They are now proposing to give $600 extra a week for unemployment. Ooh, thanks, Elaine. Okay, $600 extra. Yeah, for 4 months. That's a long time. That's a huge chunk of this plan. They also included $500 million for companies, larger companies, to help them get through this. Like anybody?
Delta and Boeing, all the
Delta
American
and Boeing.
aerospace companies.
Good. Good, Stephen. Yeah, and the Democrats were a little concerned. So Republicans didn't really like the $600 part for unemployment and extending it, but the Democrats really didn't like this $500 million because they were concerned that it could be used for balloon payments for CEOs and things. So guess what Congress did? They built in an oversight inspector general to the money. So that way they're keeping a real close eye on everything that's going on. Anyway, I encourage you to look at the bill. It's really fascinating. It's interesting. You should check it out. It is the largest stimulus package that has ever been passed. It is $2 billion. Trillion.
So is the extra money to unemployment due to a lot of people that got laid off recently, or?
Yes, sir. 1 in 5 Americans as of today are unemployed.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a significant chunk.
Isn't that worse than the Great Depression?
During the Great Depression, I believe on average it was what, 22 to 25%, but in African American communities as high as 56%. And I do think that we are going to see discrepancies among, income levels for sure, socioeconomic status. Anybody else have a question about the stimulus package? Anything else I could walk you through? Okay.
How long do you think the effects of the stimulus package are going to last?
Forever. I don't know. It really kind of depends on how long this lasts. You know what I'm saying? Because the government will get back to work. Schools will go back. Restaurants hopefully will be able to open if they've been shut down. But some small businesses aren't going to be able to get out of this. They're just not. So we'll see. We'll see. We might have to come up with some sort of permanent help for individuals, or some sort of permanent extension. Well, not permanent, but elongated extension for unemployment insurance. Augustine, what's your question, honey? Yes. Okay, that's what I did. I got a check from the government and I put it in my savings account. I did. I was a teacher. I wasn't making very much every month. And I didn't need to just go and spend it right away. But I also was not out of work. So I do know that more people are going to be spending this money, and it will go a little bit more into the economy than it did last go round, Augustine. It's a good question. It's a great question. Anything else, my darling dears? Yes. Thank you, Elaine. So guys, Joe Biden has almost wrapped up the nomination. Yes, Stephen, there was a bigger check for the Bush administration. We did get a small one from Obama, though, as well, following the 2008 recession. We're not going to have a splitting of any party moving into the 2020 election. You're going to have Joe Biden running against Donald Trump. So that is kind of interesting, everybody. Don't know a running mate for Joe Biden yet. He did promise one thing, though. Do you know what it is? Lady. That's right. That's right, Shia. Yeah, it's going to be a female. It's going to be a female. So we'll see who. All right, my darling dears, is there anything else you need from me? I'll give you your week 3 update soon. I am not giving you any work over spring break. We'll get an update for grades next week. So I'll be able to give you one then. Okay? Okay. Well, thanks for coming by. I loved hearing from about, 8 of you. And I know that microphones don't work. I get it. Please do participate more. If you make brownies, can you have bonus points? Well, you're welcome to make brownies, cutie pie, but bonus. All right. Yeah, Reed, you want to give us exit music?
I would love to. Yeah.
Okay, we just have to give him a
What
minute.
vibe are you feeling today? What kind of vibe you want today?
Still turn in extra credit. And that I can put in the grade book because I signed it before we left. Bye, Connor. Everybody say bye to Connor.
Bye, Connor.
Party Rock vibes. Oh, Chris Wallace, there you are. Bye, Grace. Spotify ad vibe.
90% connected to right phone.
There's no ad.
You're welcome, Zara. Thanks for participating. Oh, man, look out. Wait, is that Edith Stevenson? Bye, Nicole. Bye, Amanda, you too. Bye, Marissa. You're welcome, Autumn. Thanks for the music, Reed.
No angel, but you got a halo. When
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
I really wanna be right here.
Have an amazing weekend.